All right, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whenever you're listening to this. Hope to find you well. As a reminder, always when we get started, I want to remind you of our growth group vision, the what, why, and how. Remember what you're supposed to do. You're expected to lead your growth group. We do that three ways, right? Our three Ps, through prayer, through practice, and what am I missing? Oh, prepare. So prayer, prepare, and practice. So make sure you're praying for your group. Make sure you're preparing for your group. And make sure you're practicing what you preach. So again, a reminder, growth group, have the expectation in your mind that I'm preparing for my growth group because I'm coming to lead my growth group. I'm not coming to get led by my growth group or to get fed as a leader, right? Connect, grow, lead. I'm expected to lead myself and others in relationship with God, not to go to them to always be feeding me, right? Shepherds don't get fed from their sheep. They feed them. They take care of them, that idea. So that's what you should be doing. Make sure, please, I don't want to just move past this really quickly. Make sure you're praying for your group. Make sure you are actually on mission and reading your Bible and talking to non-believers and all those good things. And remember why. We're doing this because we want to see people grow with God and grow with people, right? Our salvation is not you say a prayer and then you're done. You're in heaven, good to go. We are called to grow. We are called to sanctification. We are called to remember that our salvation is what God has done, what he is currently doing, but also what he will do, right? Our job is to make Jesus' job when he comes back as easy as possible. Okay, he'll have work to do on all of us. Nobody will be perfect by then, but our goal is to make his job as easy as we can because we're so busy on mission, man, we're ready to go. So hopefully that reminds you. And again, people, right? We're always called a city. We're called a body. We're called a temple, right? We're called a lot of things that are all multi-dimensional, called a family, right? And we're never called to Christ to be an individual. That is an American construct, not a biblical one at all. So you're always supposed to be walking this out with people in community, being authentically confessional, as well as encouraging and providing for one another's needs. And the Bible even says that because of the way we do community, people actually will come to know God as well. So remember all that good stuff. And then how are we going to grow with God? How do we continue to grow? How do we continue to grow with people? By remembering and reacting, right? And again, this is the way we say that. I say that a lot. Make sure you understand that though, right? We're going to grow with God by remembering what he did. So whenever you feel your heart in the clinch of some idol, some anxiety, some sort of anger, something that's not a fruit of the Spirit, your worship is off. You're worshiping something that won't give you what Jesus already has given you. You have forgotten that God created everything. You need to remember that A, God is God, not whatever this thing is you're pining over. B, you got to remember too, I don't need anything else. I've gotten everything I need from Jesus on the cross, and now I can serve this person. Now I can do the hard thing. Now I can obey the moral rule here because I remember what Jesus has done for me and what that truth says about me, all right? So our failure in growth and being able to grow is a failure to have commerce, to remember, to feed on the gospel, okay? And then we don't want to be people that just remember and just talk about what God has done for us. I think that's great. We have to do that, but we have to be people who react, right? And we'll talk about it today, a lot of this idea of Jesus saying, if you love me, do what I say, right? So let's check into today's lesson. This will be an interesting one. See how it goes. So here we are. So look up at the top here. You have lesson 29, the United Kingdom, part 1. There'll be 7 parts. To the UK here. If you remember in your timeline, right, we went from Joshua and then Judges, then Samuel, Holy Nation is the next timeline, and the next one is United Kingdom, and then Divided Kingdom, and the exile, okay? So this semester, we're going to end with the very beginning of the Divided Kingdom, and the next semester, we're going to end with the idea of the exile. And now, so this year is a really dark year, really bad year, not a whole lot good happening this year. Okay, so our main takeaway, a little changed here, is we want to see how quickly and this is new, how deeply Israel failed at their mission that God gave them in Exodus 19 to be a holy nation, kingdom of priests. Okay, they failed quickly and deeply as soon as they got into the land and as soon as they asked for a king. Okay, so we want to see how quickly and how deeply they failed at that and reminisce with them. But also we want to understand today why God rejected Saul as king, okay? What was the reason underneath all the reason? Of course, your preamble, and encourage them with pre-study. Remind them of this 3-year thing we're doing. We can't go verse by verse, okay? We're looking at this big picture idea, story of his glory. We summarize that as creation, fall, redemption, restoration. There's a story of the Bible. Remember cat and dog, it's all about God. Learn about him, what he has done, is doing, will do. Where are we so far? We've done creation, we've done fall, we're in the story of redemption. Here's where we are. Last week we talked about Samuel and holy anti-nation, where they wanted a king, yada, yada. So how do they do at being this holy nation's kingdom of priests, and how does God respond? So today, what we're doing is an old youth ministry game that me and Chris used to do in Abilene a long time ago. So a few, Lethea and Eleanor and Crystal and other people might remember. But it's called Agree or Disagree. Okay, so I drew this awesome graphic here for you. Bam. We don't need that. so you could see kind of how this works. So here's how it works. So you're all right here, okay? Your whole growth group, they're just sitting wherever, have them in a central location, kind of off to this, right in the middle, kind of down. And then you're going to read a statement to them, like you see our first one right here, okay? Houston is the best city in the U.S. Do you agree or disagree? I would be over here and disagree. I'm saying New York City is the best in the U.S. That's my personal opinion. So you read the statement and say, okay, guys, here's a statement. Houston is the best city in the U.S. Do you agree or you disagree? Okay, you're going to give them a second to write down if they agree or disagree and why. And then you say, okay, you pick a spot, ready, set, go. And then all people who agree, they go over there. People disagree, they go over there. And then you have a little mini debate. Okay, well, why did you guys say this? Why did you say this? Okay, well, why did you say that? Anybody want to change sides? You can do that kind of stuff. You kind of have to just play this by ear. I can't really articulate, but the whole point is get them talking about whatever statement that you give right there, right? So you want people arguing. And of course, now one thing you have to also be aware of is that you're going to have very gregarious, outgoing people who are going to dominate a lot of the conversation because they like to argue. I mean, people like myself, they're not shy in front of other crowds and they love to argue with other people. So they're going to be really, really heavy-handed to talk. You got to be careful and pick out people. Hey, well, what did you put down? Why did you do that? Okay. So one thing we're doing, so hopefully you get that little graph. One thing I'll be doing is giving this right here. Okay. I'll hopefully give this to you on Sunday. There's the 8 questions 8 statements we're going through. So here's the 8 statements. So you need to give one of these sheets right here to everybody in your growth group, okay, and a pencil or a pen, and have them, okay, warmest. Houston's the best city, agrees to agree. So when you ask that statement, okay, all right, let's do our warm-up one. Houston's the best city in the U.S. Agree or disagree? Have them, underline agree or disagree, and then in this space right here, have them give a reason why. Okay, so you gotta be kind of quick. You can't linger too long on these things because then they'll take forever. But you want to give everybody a chance themselves to think, because if you don't do that, right, then if you go ahead and you have to answer silently before they move to a side, that way nobody's influenced by other people. So you write out, agree or disagree, and then why do I agree or disagree? If not, if you're looking around the room and Eric Stevens always is going to this side, well, I don't know. Eric knows better than I do. I'll just go with Eric. Okay, and you eliminate some of that by making everybody pick a side before they actually move. Okay, so no talking. Have everybody write down their answer, and then once give them like a minute or something like that, or whatever you want to give them. You can actually time it. Maybe 3 minutes. If it's a really heavy question, maybe give them 5 minutes. Okay, let them really think about it, write down their answer, and then move on. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. If not, call me, and I will make sure and go over that too. So again, this is what you're going to give everybody at growth group. Okay, once you get through your preamble, you're going to give this out, kind of explain the game. You can explain it just by doing the warm-up statement. Like have them all sit together in one space, right? Don't do one side, right? Have them kind of in the middle, one space, like in the back of a room. And then the front of the room have the agree side and disagree side. If you can put up like a piece of paper that says agree, or then this other side disagree, that would be helpful. Or if you have one of your other growth group leaders, that if you have more than 1 or 2 growth group leaders, you can do this where you have, go over here to the right where Eric is, that's the agree side. Go over here to the left side, that's the disagree. With Angela, that's the disagree side. And then Aisha maybe MCs the game and what's going on in the lesson through that sense, okay? So then you go there and you have the people speak up and have that. So again, hope that makes sense. So let me run over these 8 statements and make sure that they make sense to you. Now, real quick, before you look at this, please don't look at this. Well, you're looking at the screen, but don't read anything right now. Just listen to my voice, okay? Before you go through this and read a lot of my stuff, I would really encourage you, it's going to be hard. I really encourage you to look at the question, and before you read the red stuff, which is my response, before you read that, okay, so read the black. Okay, I'm going to read it out loud here in a little bit. Pause the video, okay? And then think through, what would you say? What's your opinion? So I don't want you to be influenced by me and what I said, okay? And even with your group, I don't want you to here's the answer because Randy said it this way. No, I mean, there's some leeway here. This is just my opinion. I'm giving you guys some other stuff, okay? But before you read my opinion, I'll read the question, pause the video, look through that, say, okay, do I agree? Do I disagree? And why? And you kind of think through that, maybe write out some of your thoughts, and then push play on the video, and you can kind of see what I said, okay? So let's do the first one here. Number 1, okay? So let's read this. As soon as I get done reading the black part, I'll pause for a second or two. That's your time to push pause and answer this on your own, okay? So the first statement, you're reading them, okay? You say this. All right, and again, they have this over here, all right? So they'll have it right there. You're just reading it to them. So talking about the 10 Commandments, okay, or the 10 words, if you want to be actually accurate. Martin Luther says that you only, keyword only, you only break the commandments 2 through 10 as a result of having already broken commandment number 1. Okay, you can look at the commandments in Exodus 20, and then do you agree or you disagree with Luther? Okay, and then at this point you say, okay, go. You got 5 minutes. You got 1 minute. I would spend a little bit more time on this one than 1 minute. Some of these you can do pretty quick, but this one I give a look because this question is kind of setting up everything else. So maybe give everybody like 5 minutes or so to look and refresh themselves to the 10 Commandments. Like, okay, what exactly does the first one say? Or if they don't know where it says, kind of help them out with that and then let them go. So why don't you take a second, pause the video right now, and you tell me, do you agree or disagree with Martin Luther and says you only break Commandments 2 through 10 as a result of having broken Commandment 1? So pause the video right now and then come back. Okay. Hopefully you've answered yourself. Okay, here's some of the stuff that I put. You can read it. Okay, I would agree with Luther, of course. If you remember, if any of y'all were in our growth group a couple years ago, we were called the number one growth group because of this quote, and I agree with it. Because if I worship God, then he has the most worth to me. It's what the word worship means, worthship. Then I'll do whatever I can to make him happy. If I worship God and him alone, well, then why would I lie, steal, covet, or anything else? But, for instance, if I love my comfort more than anything else, well, then when my comfort is threatened, well, I'll lie, I'll cheat, and I'll steal to protect that thing, right? It's the same principle idea behind why you don't have to tell a crackhead to take crack, or a lover of sports to talk about their favorite team, or a person who gets their identity from work to stay up late and work hard, okay? Because our obedience follows our joy every time, right? Wherever your treasure is, there's your heart, right? And Jesus has the same idea, right? Whatever you do, Jonathan Edwards says you only and ever do that which you most desire to do. Right? Whatever I want to do is what I'll end up doing. So again, this is where Luther is saying, listen, you're only going to, commit adultery and break God's laws if God's not the supreme joy and being in your life that you're going after. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, again, that's good to go. But that's my answer. I wouldn't just read my answer to them, I'm just giving that to you so you can have some things to think through. But again, the whole point of this exercise is to get your group talking about this. Okay? Now, if everybody in your group disagrees with this statement, then we're going to be in trouble moving forward. But hopefully you can agree with it. If not, that's okay. We'll see how the good night goes. It should be a good learning experience, okay? So now, getting into our lesson for where we are in Samuel. The following statements are all from chapter 15 of 1 Samuel. So you can tell the people to get their Bibles out. Let's get there, okay? Same thing we just did. So number 2, okay? Now, verse 24 in chapter 15, it's mainly about, this is a statement, not a question, okay? Verse 24 is mainly about Saul breaking the number 1 commandment. Do you agree or disagree? Pause the video and answer. Okay, go. Okay, you push play hopefully now. Let your people, so again, once they have that answered, you give them a minute. This one you could do pretty quick, like a minute or 2 minutes. Okay, you guys wrote down their response. Time's up, sorry. Okay, on the count of 3, you need to go to whichever side. Agree or disagree? 1, 2, 3, go. Let people go. Let them argue a little bit. Let them go back and forth. Again, watch your clock. Okay, be careful of your clock. Let them come back. I agree. Verse 24, breaking the 1 commandment because he says, Saul talking about himself, he goes, I feared the people and I listened to therefore I listened to their voice. Okay, because I feared the people, I listened to their voice. All right, I didn't do what you told me to do because I wanted to make the people happy. I wanted their approval. Right, therefore, the reason why I didn't obey God and sinned is because he's not my greatest treasure. I worship something else. Okay, it's a cause and effect statement. His idolization of the people's approval is what caused him to listen or obey their wishes and not God. All right? So yeah, he did the bad thing. The sin on the surface, the behavioral sin, is that he kept some of the things alive. He didn't listen to God. He kept the people, the king alive, and some of the farm animals. He kept them alive for religious worship. All right? That was the sin that God got mad at him about. But why? Why was that a sin? Because he feared the people. He didn't fear God, which if you go back into chapter 12 of this, there's some good stuff there as well with that, okay? So that's not that. Again, let them go. Again, don't let the arguments go too long. Again, watch who's talking. Make sure nobody dominates your growth group. Again, you're the leader, okay? And hold on a second. Let's let so-and-so speak. Hey, hold on. You got your minute a second ago. Let's let so-and-so give their opinion. Or, hey, you, little Susie over there, or little Timmy, what do you think? What did you write down, okay? Get everybody involved. It's your job to facilitate that, all right? So number 3, the people of Israel are the ones who disobeyed God and kept the animals for sacrifice. Okay, agree or disagree? Pause. Write your answer. Okay, hopefully you got your answer, your thoughts there. I disagreed with that because pretty blatantly in verse 15 and also in verse 21, Saul says that in verse 15 and 21 that the people took the things, but in verse 9 and 19, the Bible also lumps them in with that same group of people, right? So like for instance, if you look at verse, Verse 15. Okay, Saul said, well, they brought them from the Amalekites, so the people spared the best of the sheep to sacrifice, right? They did all that thing. And then verse 21, but the people took some of the spoil of the sheep and the oxen choices of the thing. So Saul says, oh no, these people, they're the ones who did it. It wasn't me. But if you look very clearly at verse 9, says, but then Saul and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep, right? And then in verse 19, Samuel talking from the Lord, why did you not obey the voice of the Lord? But you, Saul, rushed upon the spoil and did what is evil in the sight of the Lord. You did, Saul. Okay, so I disagree with the statement. It's an incorrect statement. The people are not the only ones who kept the animal sacrifice. They did do that, but Saul was the king that led them into that. So let them go, let them argue. That one should be pretty quick. Just again, kind of saying a little bit of Saul's nature here as a king. All right, what kind of king is this? Like, oh, they did it. I didn't do it. They did it. Even earlier in there, at their the battle victory over, he actually makes a monument for himself. I'm trying to remember where that's at. In verse 12, he made a monument of himself. So this guy's not a great king. So we want to kind of drive that point home here a little bit. Okay. So verse 4, statement number 4. Okay. So here's a statement. Do you agree or do you disagree with this statement? When Saul screws up and God finalizes his rejection as king, Saul's chief concern, okay, not his only one, but his chief concern is with worshiping God. Okay. Ready, set, pause, go. What's your response? Agree or disagree? Let people say what they want to say. Boom. Okay, so you see here, right? So I disagree. In verse 25, right, Saul says that he wants Samuel to return with him. Hey, please come back with me. Where's that? I'll read exactly. Therefore, please pardon my sin and return with me that I might worship the Lord, right? Sounds really good. Okay, Saul wants him to return. But in verse 30, he says the exact same thing, but now he tells the whole truth. Okay? Then he said, Saul, I have sinned, but please honor me now before the elders of my people and before all of Israel, and go back with me that I might worship the Lord your God. Okay, all right, Samuel, I get what you're saying here, but will you just come back with me? I need you to come back with me, all right? He knew that he needed Samuel's backing. This is now right here. I'm right here. He knew that he needed Samuel's backing to keep the people happy in him as the king. He shows zero genuine concern for the actual worship of God. He just knows how to play the game. He knows the religious talk, but no, his chief concern is saving face. His chief concern is the people's approval of him as a king, which that's probably like a near idol. But farther down the road, the reason why he wants their acceptance is so he can keep his stature, his status, his power as the king. That's what he wants more than anything, and that's his chief concern. That's his idol. That's his love. That's what he worships the most, okay? Now, let him again. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let him argue. Let him go back and forth. Okay. 5. Statement number 5. There's again a statement. Hey guys. Number 5. Do you agree or do you disagree with this statement? Samuel killing Agag the king and Saul utterly destroying the Amalekite people was a just deed. Okay. Justice. Is it a just thing? Do you agree or disagree? Pause the video now. Okay. I would agree. Okay. I agree that it is a just deed because you look at verse 33. Okay. Verse 33. Here's what it says. Samuel said to the king, as your sword has made women childless, so now your mother shall be childless among all women. And Samuel hewed Agag into pieces before the Lord at Gilgal. Okay, so verse 33 is, as you have done so, it's as you have done, so now it's going to be done to you kind of reverse, right? It's saying you slaughtered innocent people and you caused injustices. Now justice demands that you be completely stopped. And there's no way you're going to stop unless you're dead. Okay, and this was for the Agag. Now for the Amalekites, if you look at verse Exodus 17 and Deuteronomy 25, okay, you can pause and go look those up real quick. It's where God promises that this is going to happen, especially in 25:13 through 19, right? 25:13 and 19 gives a little bit more of a definition on what happened in Exodus 17. This is when Moses' arms were held up and they fought against the Amalekites, right after God provided out of the rock or the manna from heaven, all that kind of stuff. And then he also provides this victory over the Amalekites. And he says, Moses, write this down in the book of Joshua that these guys got to go. Okay, Deuteronomy tells you why. Because in Deuteronomy 13, 14, 15, I think it is, like 3 or 4 verses, it's talking about unjust weights. Like, out having scales that are counterbalanced so you can steal money from people. And then it talks about the Amalekites who did just the same when they attacked the staggering behind people, right? Like the lame and the elderly who were in the back of the camp of Israel. The Amalekites came and started killing those people. Like that's an unjust thing. There's a cowardice thing to do. It's an evil thing to do. They didn't just fight them up front. Israel is strong and strong. They started killing after our weak type of thing and that kind of a deal. And so God said, listen, this is an unjust people. So God now is going to use Israel as an instrument of justice against them. Okay, we'll talk about this a little bit in the next one a little bit, but I think personally that it is a just thing. God's saying, listen, you Israel are my rod of justice. These people are evil. They've done atrocious things. I'm going to use you now as a rod of justice. If these people continue to live on this earth and I do nothing about it, that's very unjust. I have the power to stop these kind of people who are not only doing this, but offering their children on the altar of sacrifice. I can't allow these people to live any longer. It's unjust. It's an unjust thing of me as God to continue this to go. So Israel, I need you to come and just wipe these people out completely. Okay? So you can agree or you can disagree. Knock yourself out. Okay? 6. Okay? Do you guys agree with this statement or do you disagree? Okay? In verse 3, God did not want Saul to take any person or any possession from the Dominant Amalekites because, okay, the reason why, the motivation, because God wanted everything about this evil people erased from the earth. Pause. What do you think? Go. All right. Hope you have time to do that. Now, I look at this and I disagree. Okay. Again, this one's tough. You might have these two right here, 5 and 6, you might have some arguments on. But actually, let me say this before I explain number 6 for me. 5 and 6, I really honestly, the more I thought about this thing after I wrote a lot of this, might be the whole crux of this chapter, honestly. Because it begins with this call to go and destroy the Amalekites and God's justice. And then it ends with Samuel finishing what Saul didn't. Very interesting. You should look at that and study it some more. We'll talk some more later if you need to. But I disagree that God did this because he wanted everything about the evil people erased. Sure, he might have wanted that. I'm not really 100% sure, but there's no direct verses that I can back up my stuff. But I was very much so influenced by verse 19, chapter 15, where God says, "Why did you not obey the voice of the Lord, but you rushed upon the spoil and you did what is evil in the sight of the Lord?" Okay, so what is evil in the sight of the Lord is rushing upon the money. Okay, the possessions. You saw the spoil, you saw that, and man, you rush into that, and that's evil. Okay, so there's something that God and Saul know here that we don't. I think, it's my opinion, you see right here, my opinion, that this is evil to keep any person, because a person, by the way, you keep for slaves or sell them as slaves. Same thing with the possessions, the goat, sheep, ox. That's just farm animals to us, but to them, that's dollar bills, that's coins to them, people and possessions. Okay, but in my opinion, that's evil because war and violence should only be used for justice, for giving peace to the surrounding nations as well as your own country. And it should not be used for personal gain. Okay? Let me say that again. War and violence should only be used for justice sake, for the peace of your country as well as for the nations around you, and not for your own personal gain. That is evil. That is evil to say, I'm going to go kill somebody because I want what they have. Okay? To my knowledge, that's the wrong way of spelling there. I'll correct that. Okay, there's no culture in all of human history that I'm aware of. Maybe there's a few here and there, but not like this. There's no culture in history that ever defeats one nation in battle and does not get rich off the spoils. This is huge, and every historian will tell you this. That's the whole point of warfare a lot of times. One of the things why guys loved it all the days, because, hey, we can do it even in World War II. Like, right, our nation benefited after that. That was part of it. Okay, so we want to get rich off of these types of things. That's why you fight over oil grounds and all kinds of, you could take this politically today. Hopefully your group doesn't go that far. But everybody does this. But Israel is not supposed to be like any other nation, ever. They're to be a holy nation set apart specifically for the mission of God to move forward. If they get rich because of their war and their violence, then they would be trusting in their strength for the provision to make them wealthy and not God, their shepherd and their king. He did not want them to take these people and these possessions because of his mission, in my opinion. Again, I don't have a ton of verses to back that up. Just verse 19 kind of hints at that to me a little bit. And my own understanding of God and other scriptures, this makes the most sense to me, okay? Is that, don't take it not because these are just evil people and I hate these people. No. I don't want you taking that money and their possession. I want you to completely get rid of them because you're doing something on justice for me. And it'll be unjust if you get rich off of their death. I'm not going to have that. You got to be different. You got to be set apart. I want the world to know we don't do things like that here. Okay? Again, you can disagree with me if you want. Okay? 7th statement. Do you agree or do you disagree? The rest of Saul's story, chapters 18 through 31, Saul, he is trying to kill David primarily because he is jealous of him. Okay? Now, before you pause this real quick, hold on. Before you pause, you might have to set this one up a little bit. Well, I've never read that before. Okay, well, kind of glance through some of that maybe. I don't know if you have time. That's a lot of chapters, right? Okay, but why is Saul trying to kill David? Why is he going to go through this? We want to see a little bit about Saul, okay? So what do you think? Pause this right here in a second. Do you agree that he's killing him primarily, all right, primarily the key word, primarily because of he's jealous of him, okay? Pause, agree or disagree, okay? Now, I disagree. I think he is trying to kill him because Saul worships his own power and his status more than he does God, and he's afraid of losing that. And David is the key to him losing his power as the king. As long as David's alive, Saul will kill his 1,000, but David will kill his 10,000. He knows the people's hearts, even his own family, right, begins to get loyal to David, and he doesn't want to lose that more than anything. That's why he kills him. So he's not jealous of David, right? He does not have what David has, jealousy. Wait, he does not want what David has, right? That's jealousy. He doesn't want what David has. That's jealousy. He wants to keep what he has from David. Okay, he has a misguided fear, which is bad worship. He fears losing his position more than he does fears the Lord. Okay, that's the primary. Again, back to the number one type of thing here. Okay, the main thing we need to do, and this is our last statement here. Number 8, do you agree or do you disagree with this statement? The main thing that we need to remember about this story, this chapter in the story, is that God demands our obedience. Agree or disagree? Pause. Go. Okay. Hopefully you rather I disagree. Why? For me, because we need to remember that we were created for worship and to enjoy God. We were not created as minions to obey his every wish. Our zealous obedience always follows our greatest joy. Okay, say that again. Our zealous obedience will always follow our greatest joy. God demands a shift in what we want first. Religion demands a shift in what we do first. You can see Jesus here. If you love me, do what I say. John, if you love him, obey. It's never the other way around. Religion always says obey, and then God will love you. Obey to show that. No, it's not saying obey to show it. Right? I think Christian talked about this past couple Sundays. God isn't demanding simply their obedience. That's not the main thing. Okay? And that would be, maybe I would highlight here. The main point here is the main. The main thing to remember, no. The main thing we need to remember from today's lesson is that we were created for worship and to enjoy God. And as we worship and enjoy God, well, then we'll do what he says. And that was Saul's problem. He didn't worship and enjoy God the most. Okay, and that was his problem. And that's why David later is called a man after God's own heart, even though he disobeyed and messed up and screwed a lot of things up. But he had this part down. And that's the part that God cares the most about. And that's why Saul's family all died. That's why David's family became a great dynasty where eventually Jesus came out of. Because David knew, and more importantly, he remembered that we were created to worship and to enjoy God. Okay? So again, religion says, no, minions, obey. Every religion says that. Even atheism to a degree, right? But for us, we need to remember that God wants a shift in what we want first. What do we desire? Okay? So there's some verses, go for that. Again, let people demand. I would say, just going through this with you now, that if you needed to cut something because of time, number 7 could be one that you could cut in there. Number 3 could be one that you can cut if you're tight on time, right? Up to you. With that, I think the ones I would not cut would be number 2. I would not cut number 4. I would not cut 5 and 6 because I really, as you study, look at chapter 15, I really think 5 and 6 is a huge, if not the biggest part, a huge part of what this is all about, the mission of Israel, that kind of a deal. And then, of course, don't cut number 8 because we want to be more dog-like and always remember God. Okay, remember that God, and this can take you back to the gospel, right? God didn't say, hey, if you do this well, if you guys obey first, well, then I'll come and die for your sins. But no, God came to show us, look, there's nothing else more worthy or enjoyable than me. Look at what I've done for you. Okay? And even in Samuel, I believe it's chapter 12. Let me read it to you. I love this. All right? Chapter 12, Samuel's telling Israel, listen, fear the Lord, serve him in truth with all of your heart, for consider or remember what great things he has done for you. Okay? Fear God, serve him with all of your heart by considering what he has done for you. That's how we do it. That's why we grow, by remembering and then reacting. That's chapter 12, verse 24 and 25, if you want for that. So pray that for the lesson. You can maybe mention that to the group, or, hey, God, help us to find our greatest joy. Help us to remember the gospel and how great you are, something of that nature. And then we go to our prayer time. Hopefully you guys are getting this down. Okay, again, remember, the whole point of this is show us how we should leave this prayer time with action steps. Should I pray? Should I invite? Should I tell? Should I show for these people? Same thing with these people. Same thing with the Joshua Project people, okay? You should be leaving these 3 prayer times with some sort of action step that each person in your group is going to take this week, okay? Because, again, our goal, we want people to begin thinking every day, how's my blank used for your mission, okay? Once you spent that time, you could spend 50 minutes on that. You could spend, honestly, 5 to 10 minutes doing that, okay? Just, God, what do you want me to do? I have this friend. They're not saved yet. What do you want me to do? Okay, God, I will commit to doing that, whatever that is that God gives on you, okay? Our goal, how can we use that? Pray for the outsiders, of the people outside of the growth group, okay? And then transition from people outside the growth group to inside. Remember Matthew 4:5, 14 through 16, that we are a city on a hill. People should see how we treat one another and our good deeds, all of us collectively, and they should worship and glorify our Father in heaven, okay? The way we treat each other inside of growth group is the most important thing to anybody outside of our growth group, probably. That's our witness. If we can't even treat each other with love and compassion and understanding, why would anybody ever want to join the one we follow, right? So pray for each other, encourage one another, get involved in each other's life, provide for one another, love each other, serve one another, really be Christian community for that. Look at what Jesus did for you, and now do that back to somebody else inside of your growth group this week, please. Okay? And by praying people in the room, close with one another. You got that. All right, that's a lot. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully this is a fun thing. We should do this a lot, me and Chris. It's a good time. Look at it. Take some time to think about it. Understand how to do it. And if you need this awesome little thing right here to show you, I can easily email it to you guys. Have a great week. Know what you're doing. Know why you're doing it. Know how you're doing it. And just love God. Make God this week the thing you want more than anything. A great resource if you're struggling with that is Psalm 119. Just read Psalm 119 every day for the next 7 days, and just feed off of the author's passion for God and his desire to know him. So have a great week. Call me, text me, show up at the house if you need anything. All right, guys. Peace.